Hello Year 6 families, I just thought I'd do you a bit of an information video just about the upcoming SATs week for Year 6. Obviously I'm sure your children have been coming home talking about it, so I think it's good to give you some information as well about our plans for the week and almost the structure of the testing for the week. So, what are SATs first of all? So SATs are the standardised assessment tests and are given to children at the end of Key Stage 2. So they take place for 4 days. It starts the week beginning Monday the 9th of May. So it takes place Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And there are various papers that the children have to complete. They have a grammar, punctuation and spelling. They have a reading and then they have some maths papers as well. Okay, so writing isn't assessed within the actual papers themselves. We have that as almost a moderation after SAT. So once we have completed the test, we will be heavily focusing on writing within our English lessons, ensuring that the children are applying a wide range of almost Year 6 expected standard tools into their writing so that we can showcase that they are either expected or greater depth writers. Really important that attendance on this week is 100%. If children do not attend on any of the days, they will have to catch up all of the missed papers when they return to school. So for example, if your child missed Monday and Tuesday, when they came in on the Wednesday, they would have to complete the Monday, Tuesday and the Wednesday papers on the Wednesday. So we really want to encourage you that it's really important that your child attends school every day that week and they need to be punctual when they arrive. We don't want to almost heighten that anxiety of them having information overload, having them all in one day. So they do take place during normal school hours and they are completed under exam conditions. We have done mocks throughout the year with your children, so they are almost very familiar with the process of SATs and almost the expectations. So children are not allowed to talk to each other from the minute that the assessments are given out until they're completed at the end of the test and they are collected back in. So the tests are then sent away to be marked externally. So we have no input on the marking at all, which is why we've stressed to your children that it's really important that handwriting is readable and legible, because if it is not readable, the examiner won't give them the mark when they mark it. Tests are then, once they're marked, we then receive the results in July, so we do not find anything out until then. And each test will last no longer than 60 minutes, but we will go through almost the breakdown of each test shortly. So once the results are marked externally, you will be given a raw score, so that is the total number of marks achieved on each paper. You then get given a scaled score, and then there is a judgment on whether the national standard has been met. So the scale score is almost a conversion from 80 to 120, so 100, if you have a scaled score of 100, that would mean that you are at an expected standard. I think usually it's about 110 for greater depth. So I've just got here the 2019 thresholds. Now, as we have said to the children, we do not know year on year what the threshold is going to be to reach expected or to reach greater depth, because it changes year on year with the average across all of the children nationally. So in 2019, these were the expected standards. So as you can see, the total marks for maths was 110 marks available. You needed 58 for expected and 95 for GD. For reading, there was 50 marks available. You needed 28 for expected and 41 for GD. And for grammar, punctuation and spelling, there was 70 marks available across the two papers. You needed 36 for expected and 55 for GD. Now, as I said, this doesn't mean that this year the standard will be exactly the same. We do have to almost wait and see. We are almost aiming for this. We are, trying to encourage the children to aim for this because we don't think it will get any higher. But as we said, it changes yearly, so it could be slightly higher, it could be slightly lower, depending on how children do. So, 9th of May, so this is the Monday, and when the children first come in, the first paper that they will do will be spelling, the punctuation and the grammar. So these papers are split into two papers. Okay, so paper 1 focuses on all 3 elements, spelling, punctuation and grammar, and that lasts for 45 minutes. Paper 2 is then a spelling test only. So this will take approximately 15 minutes, but we give the children as long as they need. And I will go through almost the expectations within the paper with you now. So paper one, so this is all about their subject knowledge, their technical vocabulary. So we have almost practiced this throughout the whole year, drilling them with word classes, because it is really important that they can almost reel them off. So it will focus on grammatical terms, word classes, so that's like nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions. They will need to almost identify those sorts of things in sentences, apply them. They will need to know functions of sentences. So is it a statement, is it a question, is it an exclamation, is it a command? They will need to know about combining words, phrases and clauses. So we've done a lot of revision on relative clauses, subordinate clauses, main clauses. They will need to know verb forms, tenses and consistency. They will also need to know about punctuation. So this, for example, will give them a sentence and it will say, can you insert the comma and the semicolon? And first of all, I think they need to remember what a comma looks like, what a semicolon looks like, and also obviously input it in the right place. They also need to have some good understanding of vocabulary, so that will include like prefixes and suffixes, and also standard English and formality. So there is a range of question types. There will be questions where it will be tick boxes, matching boxes, gaps, ones where they're expected to explain, and they vary across the test. So for example, I have some questions for you. So for example, this one here is saying tick the sentence that must end with a question mark. They will need to read the sentences and differentiate which one is actually asking them something and tick the correct one. Really important that they look at this tick one. If they tick more than one, they will not get the mark. So it has to be really clear that this is the answer that they've chosen. There are also questions, for example, where you have to fill in the answer. For example, on question 34, there are multiple answers that the children could write, but ultimately it needs to almost distinguish that the first one is referring to 2 children, the second one is referring to 3. So paper 2 is a shorter paper and it focuses solely on spelling. So spelling is still looked at within the grammar, punctuation, spelling, paper 1 itself. This, for example, will be read as almost a dictation activity. So we will read the word, we will read the sentence, and then we will read the word again. So for example, in this instance, for number 1, it says the dragon is an imaginary. So we would say the word is creature, the dragon is an imaginary creature. The word is creature, and your child would have to fill in the word creature, spelling it to the best of their knowledge, hopefully correctly, ready to get their mark for that spelling. So as I said, for GPS, so it's out of 70 marks in total, so 50 on paper 1, 20 on paper 2, they would need 36 in total for expected. So we almost try and encourage them to get a lot of their marks paper 1, so they don't need to almost worry coming into paper 2, especially if spelling is not something that they're strong with. So on Tuesday, we will have our reading paper. So the reading paper lasts 60 minutes. So the reading paper is designed to check your children's comprehension skills in line with the national standard. So the children will have 2 booklets. One will be their reading answer booklet, one will be the booklet where the text will be. So within that text booklet there will be 3 texts, usually one non-fiction, one fiction and then another. So that could be a repeat of either a non-fiction or a fiction again, or it could also be some poetry. So this test will look at the reading domains. That will include things like retrieval, inference, prediction, looking at things with vocabulary or summarising. So for example, with the questions, some of them will have almost short answer questions with 1 mark. So they will almost have to read the text to extract their answer. So obviously this has been almost cropped. The text itself would be, almost a page, 2 pages, sometimes 3 pages. So they would almost read through the text to retrieve their answer. Then for further questions, it may be that there are multiple options that they could include. So for example here, you can see from the mark scheme, there could actually be almost 2 points that they could make. We usually encourage the children to think about almost the lines that it's given them, because that suggests it's going to be a slightly longer answer for them to consider when they're doing their answers. There will also be some questions that will be 3 marks. So we usually encourage the children to think about P, so that's point, evidence, explain. In this instance, it's given you a box, so they have to almost read the text, note 2 impressions, and then almost get the evidence from the text. So we encourage the children to use highlighters. They will highlight it in the text as their evidence and put it directly into the evidence box. So you can see, for example, they only need to make 2 here, but there are 7 different options that they can make. A lot of children do tend to avoid almost the 3-mark questions, I think, because they just panic, see the length of the box. But actually, even if they made their impressions, they could get 2 marks just for making 2 acceptable points without the evidence. So really important that they at least attempt the question rather than just skipping it. So, almost looking at previous papers, we know that a main focus for the papers has been about retrieval and about inferring from the text. So definitely anything you can do at home to almost encourage your children to practice those skills will be extremely beneficial ahead of SATS week. Definitely using the reading revision guides that you've got that we previously used as homework. I mean, have a look at those because they will look at all of the reading domains within that. There are also some questions that look at the meaning of words in context, so they'll almost ask the children to think about what that word means, and they will almost have to explain that themselves. So then we move on to maths across 2 days, so the maths papers will take place across both Wednesday and Thursday. So for maths, there are 3 papers in total. There is an arithmetic for paper 1, and paper 2 and paper 3 are both reasoning papers. So on Wednesday, they will have 2 papers on this day, so it is quite a long day on Wednesday. They'll have their arithmetic and their reasoning 1, and then they will have their reasoning 2 on the Thursday. So the arithmetic paper focuses on the 4 operations, so addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So there are 40 marks on offer for this paper, okay, so really important that the children are familiar with almost quick arithmetic skills to be able to get through the questions as quick as possible. It would also look at things like percentages of amounts and calculating with decimals and fractions. So really important that the children throughout this arithmetic paper are showing their working out where applicable. So definitely, if for example here it is a 2-mark question, it is asking them to show the method. Even if the answer is then incorrect and they've shown their method correctly, they will be awarded the 1 mark for it. So that's why it's really important we encourage them to do their calculations on the actual paper itself, so that they might eventually just get the mark even if their final sum is not correct. So some further example questions, again looking at a wide range of arithmetic skills. So they will look at things like percentages. They would also include BODMAS, so they will have to think about that. And then again, really important that they are showing their working out. So this one, for example, is looking at long division. So really important that they are showing their working out, because it is a 2-mark question, and even if they then got the answer wrong, because it is almost like a very multi-step problem figuring this out, then they would still get the mark for their working out. So on Wednesday and Thursday, we will have paper 2 and paper 3, and these are both based around reasoning. So these look at various skills. So for example, they will look at number and place value, including Roman numerals. They will also look at the 4 operations. They will look at geometry, so that's including properties of shape, position and direction, so that would be like translating shapes as well. They will look at statistics. They will also look at things like measurement, length, perimeter, mass, volume, time and money, so that will include almost converting as well, so they will need to know almost the conversions. Also algebra, ratio and proportion, and fractions, decimals and percentages, so that will almost be a repeat of almost paper 1 as well. So for example, there are some example questions here. So there will be some where they literally just have to read. Obviously we can see here, they can look at the intervals on the jug and almost figure that out. Again here, they will be looking at missing numbers in sequence, so they will also almost have to think about the rule and almost apply that to get the next number, and obviously do it backwards to get the previous number. Then there will be some questions where it requires more of an explanation. So for example, here they've got to circle the prime number and then explain how they know that the others are not prime. Okay, so this will almost be assessing their understanding of almost the articulation of how they know and almost the reasoning behind it, the explanation, to be able to get their mark. There will also be some questions, for example, for statistics. So this will be almost focusing on things that they've covered almost in 3-4, because the Key Stage 2 tests cover everything almost right from the beginning of Key Stage 2. So they will almost need to look at the key and apply to get their mark correctly. Again, exactly as I said, this is almost thinking about the converting between two lengths of measurement. Then you will also have some 3-mark questions. Okay, so within this, it is almost a multi-step problem. So the children will need to read really carefully. Within the maths paper, they can have every single question read to them if they put up their hand. So really important that they put up their hand if they're not very strong with reading, so we can read it to them. We can't obviously explain how to do it, but almost for some children that's enough for them to almost figure out what the process is going to be. But again, as you can see from the mark scheme, even if the answer is incorrect, you can get 2 marks for the evidence of appropriate complete method which contains no more than 1 arithmetic error. So actually, even if their final answer is correct, as long as they have calculated and attempted to do that, they can still be awarded marks, even if the answer is wrong, as long as they've used the appropriate method. So just some advice for your Year 6 children. So make sure definitely you are listening in class. Really important, these next couple of days are going to be vital in the run up to SATs as we just revise and revisit everything. The adults you work with all want you to do your best, so we will all be with you throughout the SATs. We will also have Mr. Grewcock and Mrs. Quick involved with revision, and actually they're all familiar to you, so hopefully that will support with you. Make sure you get plenty of sleep and eat well. We definitely don't want any tired children during SATs. Make sure that you're reading the questions carefully, don't make silly mistakes, so definitely do your working out in your maths paper. Definitely if it says tick 1, tick 1, if it says tick 2, tick 2, don't make silly mistakes and not follow the instructions that it's given you. Don't panic. So if there are questions that you think you can't answer, either read it again, or we encourage your children to just circle the number of the question, move on, and then come back to it later, because the last thing we want is for them to waste loads of time on a question which they can almost skip and come back to. And obviously SATs is for 4 days out of your whole life. Okay, so really important that you don't almost dwell on this too much. So what do we need from you for SATs week itself? So 100% attendance and punctuality is vitally important throughout. As I've said, the children will have to repeat the missing tests when they return to school. It is a statutory requirement from the government, so your children will have to complete these. We are inviting all of the Year 6 children to attend school from 8 AM. So we will have breakfast available. We will have juice and things so that the children can prepare together, and we can register them early because the first test on each day will begin at 9 AM. So it is vitally important. We cannot have children turning up after 9 AM. So we would like all children to be at that breakfast club at 8 o'clock every day of SATs week. So that's Monday to Thursday. And then, of course, we have our treats day on Friday to look forward to. So Friday the 13th, we will be going to Thorpe Park, so that will be a really nice treat. I know the consent forms went out for that before half term, and we will give further information obviously about the day and just give you a couple of reminders, but that will be a really nice day for the children to relax after all their hard work. And I know the children last year when we did this on the Friday, it was very well deserved, and I'm sure it will be for these children this year. And then obviously we also have the PGL trip to look forward to when we go to the Isle of Wight. So this will be Friday the 10th of June till Sunday the 12th. We will be releasing some more information about this over the next few weeks. And we will be finalising obviously children that will be attending. Obviously we've been looking at ATL and things like that, attendance throughout the year. So we will give you some more information on that, but just a heads up, obviously, again, a reminder about the date of when that will be. And obviously, finally, thank you for your time watching this video. I know it is quite lengthy, but hopefully it will give you some information about SATs to support with your children at home. If you obviously do have any questions, please contact your child's class teacher on Seesaw. They will be more than happy to help. But hopefully that will almost reassure you of our plans for the week. And hopefully for Year 6 children, it will reassure you that we have every faith that you are going to do extremely well in a few weeks' time. So thank you once again, and I'll speak to you soon.